The health of our gut is not just a matter of stomach pain or constipation. It is a profound connection that affects our mood, our stress threshold, and even neurological diseases we might develop in the future. Over the last 50 years, a dramatic decline in sperm counts has been observed. Today we can look at the statistics and see how much infertility has increased. I seek refuge in Allah from the accursed Satan in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds. Peace and blessings be upon our Messenger Muhammad and upon his family and all his companions. In this video, we will talk about the relationship of our nervous system and hormones with our microbiota. You know, the gut is called the second brain. This is not actually used in just a metaphorical sense. Indeed, within the gut wall, there is a neural network as dense as the brain. Moreover, this network is in constant two-way communication between the brain and the gut via what is called the vagus nerve. The chemical signals of the food we eat, our bowel movements, all microbial activities, reach the brainstem, which is the most basic control center of the brain, via this vagus nerve. If the vagus nerve is strong, meaning that digestion mode we call parasympathetic tone is active, then digestion works regularly, bowel movements are harmonious, and the person starts to feel calmer. But if this tone starts to drop, chaos begins in both the gut and the mind, bringing along stress, indigestion, bloating, restlessness, and many other conditions. I think the critical point here is this. A very large portion of neurotransmitters, the main substance of the nervous system in our diet, is produced in these guts. For example, the hormone serotonin, the hormone dopamine, or their precursors are processed by the gut microbiota. And when the gut flora becomes impoverished, meaning when diversity decreases, this flow starts to get disrupted. As a result, serotonin decreases in the brain, dopamine balance is disrupted. And how does this manifest clinically? Patients may experience anxiety attacks, depressive moods, depressive fluctuations increase, focusing becomes difficult, impulsive eating behaviors start to develop, and sleep pattern can also be disrupted along with it. More importantly, we can now see that those neurodegenerative diseases can develop. What are these neurodegenerative diseases? For example, Parkinson's. In Parkinson's patients, years before symptoms even start, gut conditions like constipation can appear, and significant shifts in the microbiota are actually observed. We can also say that Alzheimer's disease is associated with decreased gut diversity and elevated inflammatory signals. Of course, the microbiota is not the sole cause of these diseases, but the microbiota is actually a very powerful factor that prepares the ground and accelerates the process. So, how can we support this gut-brain axis in daily life? Of course, being careful against all additives that harm us is the first thing we need to do. Increasing fibrous and fermented foods supports the gut microbiota and the signaling network established with the brain. One of the most important ways to increase vagal tone in the vagus nerve we mentioned is taking slow and deep breaths. Peaceful walks in nature or in a quiet environment, all the contemplations done can actually balance the nervous system and increase vagus tone. These cold-warm shower transitions also strengthen body tone in the same way. Also, giving digestion a chance between meals and not snacking constantly allows the vagus line to rest. In short, the health of our gut is not just a matter of stomach pain or constipation. It is actually a profound connection that affects our mood, our stress threshold, and even neurological diseases we might develop in the future. The bacteria living in the gut play a role in both regulating and metabolizing our entire hormone system, including estrogen, testosterone, insulin, and cortisol. For example, there is a specific group of bacteria that mediates the breakdown and recirculation of estrogen. This group of bacteria is called the estrobolome. Depending on this group of bacteria, estrogen is reabsorbed and its accumulation in the blood can occur. This can lead to estrogen dominance in women and in men, to an imbalance of the estrogen-testosterone hormone balance. In other words, when our flora is disrupted, our hormonal identity can also be disrupted. Indeed, over the last 50 years, a dramatic decline in sperm counts has been observed. Today, we can look at the statistics and see how much infertility has increased. A large-scale meta-analysis published in 2022 revealed that sperm counts in men have decreased by 60% since 1973. In fact, in women as well, serious disruptions are experienced in many parameters such as ovarian reserves, menstrual cycles, and embryo implantation in the uterus. Today, the very common abortions, meaning miscarriages, which are not like they used to be, can also be linked to this. Because on top of this system, there is also the burden of modern chemicals. In other words, while our flora is already weak, today this burden becomes even more devastating. We can talk about these in a few steps. In addition to what we discussed earlier, I want to mention micro and nanoplastics. Today, microplastics have been found in almost every drinking water in the world. In a study conducted in 2023, it was shown that microplastics even pass into the placenta of unborn babies. When these substances reach the gut, they damage the flora, destroy the mucosa, and also mimic hormonal receptors, so they can act not just as a physical pollutant, but as a chemical endocrine disruptor. The other issue is the endocrine disruptors we are very frequently exposed to today, meaning conditions that disrupt the hormonal system. Bisphenol A is known as BPA, phthalates, parabens, dioxins. These substances are found especially in packaged foods, plastic bottles, cosmetics, cleaning products, and unfortunately, even in some prescription drugs. These directly produce estrogen-like signals. The effect of these substances on fertility is very clearly documented. In 2017, the Endocrine Society announced that these substances disrupt both testicular functions in men and ovulation and menstrual regularity in women. For this reason, the use of bisphenol A, BPA, or similar substances in food packaging has actually been banned in many countries. But unfortunately, it was found that not only BPA, but also its derivatives like BPF and BPS, which are assumed to be safe and replaced it, have the same effect. The gut flora plays a role in detoxifying these toxins, while also trying to cope with the systemic inflammation they cause. But if our flora is weak, it starts to fail in these tasks, leading to a buildup of hormones and consequently distorted signals. This increases the risk of PCOS, Polycystic Ovary Syndrome, in women. In men, it suppresses testosterone production, meaning both ends of the endocrine system are actually damaged here. Additionally, these types of foods lead to the proliferation of Candida fungus in the gut and many other opportunistic microbes in the microbiota. These opportunistic microbes in the microbiota disrupt the gut wall with their metabolic waste and also confuse the immune system. As a result, the body becomes intolerant even to its own hormones. This hormone-disrupting environment affects both fertility and gender development. In other words, even if it doesn't directly change people's sexual orientation or identity formation, it weakens the biological foundation because estrogen-like chemicals that the fetus is exposed to in the mother's womb can cause disruptions in future testicular development, external genital structures, and even hypothalamic hormone release in the brain. A 2020 study showed that in male infants exposed to phthalates, the anogenital distance, which is an indicator of sexual development measured at birth, was significantly reduced. This is actually a direct physical indicator of hormonal disruption. When our flora is disrupted, not only our stomach and intestines, but also the biological foundation of our identity is shaken. fertility begins to decline, and mental balance is disrupted. In other words, hormones go haywire. That's why this issue is so deep, and let's not forget that it's a matter that requires more attention. These videos are an awareness project we started to remind ourselves why we need halal and in a clean food, and to raise our awareness by drawing attention to certain issues. Now we understand what we can do and what kind of system we have. In our next video, in addition to what we've discussed so far, we will cover important topics on what to look out for in daily life and what needs to be done. We will also discuss some solutions. I pray to Allah the Almighty to grant us success in doing good, and praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds.